Showing your ass to everybody, bro? For the whole internet to see? For free? Doing that for free? Hello and welcome. Welcome back to another Onkruid video. Welcome back to another part in our series deep diving into The Gift of Therapy by Yalom. Book is upstairs again. Trying to record more away from my desk, so here we are for the second episode in a row. Sitting on the floor of my apartment. Some kitty action going on behind me. We're all just chilling in the sunlight today. Okay, tip 17. Suki, I can't work like this, bro. Does that seem like the best location for you to sit? You can't sit anywhere else? Thank you. Tip 17. Tip 17 is all about searching for here and now equivalents. And we'll get into what Yalom means with those equivalents right here, right now. Classically, in the classic sense of what therapy is about, a therapist's job is all about analyzing situations where a client experienced problems of any kind. According to Yalom, often interpersonal problems, but they could be work problems, they could be personal identity problems, just analyzing situations where things are going wrong. They try to detect, together with the client's unconscious motivations, the way the client played a role in the problem, maybe the role the client played in the interaction that went south. They look for alternative forms of behavior that could have applied to the situation. They look for patterns in the client's behaviors that the clients might not even realize are patterns themselves. But this can become way too cognitive, way too thought-focused, way too analytical. And we need to rely on the subjective data delivered to us by the patient, by the client. We need to listen to their stories about the situations to analyze them. So those are two reasons why this is not always the best approach to go about psychotherapy. Way better, according to Yalom, is working in the here and now while using your rabbit ears, we talked about in the last video rather, to find equivalents of the problematic situations happening between you and the client. So they might experience a problem with their partner in their personal life. You try to look for kind of a parallel, a mirror image of that problematic interaction with the partner in the here and now in your therapy session. Yalom gives the example of his client Kevin, the therapist he has in therapy himself, and how upset Kevin is because he thinks he ruined the relationship with his son. He told his son to plan something, but in the end Kevin tried to mingle in, tried to regain control, tried to get the things his way again, and he felt like he completely blew open, just blew up, ruined the relationship with his son or any possibility of having a relationship. Instead of analyzing that relationship, that situation, and trying to catalog all the components mentioned above, Yalom thought, what does this make me think about in my relationship with Kevin? He then thinks about how he once told one of his own clients, Yalom told one of his clients to go and see Kevin because he thinks that Kevin is a nice match for that client. And Kevin messed up that therapy relationship. The client didn't show up anymore, didn't say anything anymore, and Kevin was so afraid to disappoint Yalom that he didn't tell Yalom about it until months later. Such a shameful experience because he felt like he completely ruined his relationship with Yalom in the process by making that one misstep. And that's where Yalom finds the equivalent, and that's where Yalom then tries to work on that with Kevin and not just stick with his relationship with his son and the situation that happened there. Yalom also talks about another client of him, Alice, who was mad at every potential partner disappearing out of her life without a trace. Yalom decided to then explore the relationship he himself had with her instead of focusing on those relationships that Alice had with other people. Because this was also a relationship filled with frustration. Every session Yalom was kind of looking forward to the end of the session, to when the therapy would be over. For example, for her constant biting remarks about the amount of money she had to pay, even though Yalom already lowered the pay for her. Confronting her in the here and now about these kinds of things opens up the opportunity for you to talk about her role in the interaction. Opens up the opportunity for her to shed some light on her own way of being in relationships and how she might, to put it bluntly, scare away those potential partners by that behavior that she is setting, without having to try and realize what those other people in the relationship, in the situations might have felt. We can just look at the equivalent in the here and now and get the information from there. The final example described in this chapter by Yalom is about Albert, a client, a person, a fellow traveler who is very angry at his own friend, but he cannot express his emotions. Yalom then looks for equivalents in the sense of like, what could Albert be angry with me about? And could we use this therapy session as a practice arena for him to express his anger in a productive, adaptive way. He has to travel for an hour. He has to pay a lot of money. He has to tell Yalom things that he could also just be telling him his friends. He doesn't always get the feedback or response he wants. He doesn't get concise advice all the time. That must make him a bit frustrated. He must feel scammed, disappointed, pissed towards therapy as a whole or towards Yalom. And just Yalom saying these things, proposing these possible feelings, was enough of an opening for Albert to open up about, yes, some of those things are right, and he is angry at Yalom. And he could finally talk about his anger towards the other person, go into confrontation in an adaptive way, and be better at the end of it than before it. This made it feel okay for Albert to talk to his friend outside of the therapy session as well. Go into the confrontation, talk about what's going on between them and how Albert hates this and how that would not ruin their relationship. My own thoughts, I see the value of this technique for sure, but it sounds a little bit hard for me to apply it in practice. I love a technique that gets me out of my over-analyzing, overly cognitive way of being though, so I'm excited to try this more often in my therapy sessions in the near future for sure. I feel like I do use it already, but only when a client states something that explicitly elicits my thoughts of a parallel, of a mirror image, of an equivalent in the sessions. For example, a girl telling me she is not looking for social support anymore because she's so certain that her friends are already so bored of hearing her say the same things over again. And telling her, do you feel like the same here? Do you feel that I am also maybe bored of listening to you? Because that's not the case at all. Finding the equivalent, I'm working in the here and now to help her with her insecurity. Or a client feeling she is not special enough, not unique enough, not deserving of her space in the universe, not even deserving her space in the train. She is not allowed to take up that room because somebody else might want to take that seat. The questions she asks aloud, she asks herself, but she seems to ask me as well about, is it worth it for her? Is she worthy, rather, of the chair she is sitting in right now when we're in therapy? Whether she shouldn't stop therapy to give the space in my agenda towards somebody more deserving of her. That gives me so much, like an abundance of material to work with in the here and now related to her feelings of insignificance, her feelings of undeservedness, her feelings of not deserving any help or any support at all. So I can use equivalence, I think, to not overanalyze or overly cognitive dive into certain topics, but the clients still just need to yell it into my ears. My bunny ears haven't developed well enough. My radars are not strong enough to pick up the more unconscious, more subtle, more nuanced ways that these equivalents might come into therapy, and that's where I think a lot of work is still needed. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Say bye, Tora. She's in a grumpy mood.